Getting rejected during the job search process sucks. I know it firsthand. I've interviewed with over 50 companies, I've sent out applications to countless others and been rejected numerous times for various reasons. The upside is I've learned a lot and now I can share it with you. I can share the common reasons why people get rejected during the job search. An important thing to remember about job interviews and job searching in general is that at any point in the process, you can be rejected for basically any reason. And this really sucks because if you're trying to change your approach or your strategy to job searching, it's not clear what you should do to make your chances better. You can feel like you're the most qualified, talented individual for a job, go through the whole process, and then get rejected. And it really sucks. Interviewing is very flawed, full of bias, and really an imperfect process for evaluating a candidate. But it's really good to be aware of common rejection reasons so that, one, you can soften the blow if you do get rejected, or rather when you do get rejected, and it can give you an idea of how to best present yourself during the interview process. Here are some common interview rejection reasons. One is you're just not that experienced yet. So maybe they're looking for someone more senior who can lead a team or work really independently, but you're a junior who doesn't have as much experience or the skills that they're looking for. One of the roles that I was applying for was looking for someone with some front-end development experience, which I had. And so I thought I'd be a good candidate, but after the very first phone screen, they called back and said, hey, you're not quite there yet with your skills. We're looking for someone with a lot more skill in front-end development than you, so we're not moving on. And that's really the reality. People have standards when they're looking for a candidate. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a good designer or anything like that, but people can be really picky when it comes to deciding who fits into a certain role. And for some, it might be they want someone to lead a team and be very independent. And if you don't have that experience, they're probably not that confident that you can do that. One thing you can do though is if you're lacking experience in a certain area and you're aware of it, convey your enthusiasm or your willingness to learn. And that's something that can mitigate that sort of hesitance in hiring someone that's maybe less experienced in a certain area or just less experienced in general. You can always sell your enthusiasm and your curiosity, and that's something that helped me land my first job, where I was extremely curious and just asking a lot of questions, and also conveyed enthusiasm for learning and developing new skills. Number two, you raised some red flags during the interview process. And this just means that you gave a really bad signal to whoever was interviewing you or looking at your work that you're not going to be a good fit to work there. Some companies even have a list of red flags that they look out for. Some people have personal red flags that they look out for. It could be in the way that you answer questions, you use certain language, or maybe indicate how you've worked with others in the past. For example, there was an engineer I interviewed. Some of the feedback was that he seemed sort of selfish and not good at resolving conflicts, and that was a red flag for a company that I was in that was highly collaborative. Number three, you weren't a good fit for the company or the role. This is a weird one because it just feels like you're being judged for not fitting into a certain company's culture or their work style or the team that you're interviewing for. I think really it comes down to they didn't see you being part of the team when they were interviewing you. They couldn't imagine you sitting with them, working on the sort of problems that they're working on. For example, maybe they're looking for some designer with motion design experience, but you only have research experience in addition to your general product design skills. In that case, they might say, hey, it's not gonna work out because we're really looking for someone with motion design skills, so you're not gonna be a good fit for the team and the sort of projects that we're gonna be working on. Sometimes it's more cultural and feeling based, where they didn't feel like you could join their team and be successful, or join the company and be successful. And this could be a difference in how you present yourself or your working style or how you communicate. And this is all subtle, subjective things that really are sometimes unfair to judge someone on, but it is a reason why people can get a rejection. For companies I did receive offers, usually the conversations went really smoothly. I vibed really well with the interviewers. They reacted positively to my answers and my interviews. Maybe if you're not vibing well, it can lead to a rejection. Not always, but it could be a reason for it. Number four, something happened at the company and the role is no longer open. So this one is pretty shitty because you can't actually do anything about it, but sometimes things happen at a company and then a role has to get closed. For example, I got an offer to work as a product designer at what I thought was a pretty cool company. Come to find out that the company was in a bunch of legal trouble and the role was closed because they laid off a ton of people shortly after I interviewed. And so I didn't end up working there and had to continue interviewing, which really sucks. But that was something that was out of my control. Another example is I went through the entire interview process with this startup. It was looking really good. I thought I did really well. And then at the very last second, someone with 15 more years of experience than me interviewed and then basically got an offer over me. And that was a terrible feeling. Another example I've seen is that a company just wants to reassess what they're looking for in a candidate. They're interviewing a bunch of people. No one's really excited about any of the candidates. No one's getting to the later stages or the offer stages. And then they just decide, hey, we don't actually know what we want, so let's close the role, and then reevaluate it before we start interviewing again. And that can happen when you're in the middle of an interview process and then you just get a rejection. Number 5, you didn't convey enough excitement during the interview process. And this is a weird one too, because some people are just naturally not that exciting sounding. I sometimes sound really boring when I'm talking. It's more common, I would say, in earlier stage startups where they're really looking for very passionate people that have some sort of personal attachment, are really enthusiastic about the specific problem that the company is solving. So maybe the whole team is really excited about the crypto project that they're working on and you're interviewing for that role, but you don't convey enough excitement about the specific project or what the company is doing. That can lead to a rejection. So one thing you can do here is, if the mission or the product does resonate with you in some way, make that connection and convey that to your interviewers. And if you're someone that naturally sounds a little more bored or less excitable and less exciting and less enthusiastic, try to be a little bit more enthusiastic than normal just during the interview process. It's probably very difficult if you're not that type of person, but try and do it. It generally comes across more favorably to your interviewers if you sound excited. And number 6, they just weren't that excited about you as a candidate. And I've had this be my rejection reason before, and I thought it was so weird. It was a company that I interviewed with, went through the whole process. I think I did everything perfectly. I did the design exercise, the presentation. I thought it all went well. But when it came down to the rejection reason and the feedback that they gave me, they just said that while everyone really liked you and they thought you were great, they just weren't excited about you. There was no one that would step up and say, yeah, I would really love Gian to work for this company. For some companies, that's the minimum standard, and they need at least one person to give a very enthusiastic recommendation before they extend an offer. So you can do everything right, you can feel like you did everything perfectly, make no mistakes, avoid all red flags and all that, but you can still get rejected. As always, I like to end these videos with some tips or some advice that you can take with you and use in your career. Tip number 1, it gets easier over time. Dealing with rejection is much easier when you feel it over and over and over again, which if you're job searching, you will probably experience. You'll get better at managing your emotions, managing your expectations when it comes to interviewing. And so if it sucks now, just know that it'll get easier as you progress. And over time, you'll also get a better feel for what interviews went well and which didn't go well, and that can help with managing those expectations. Always ask your recruiter or whoever you're talking to for feedback if you do get rejected. So a lot of the advice I'm giving here is directly from recruiters that I asked feedback from. Some are probably not going to give you anything, but if they're really nice, they'll give you some feedback that you can use to iterate on your job search strategy or give you an indication of what you need to focus on in terms of interviewing. So always ask for feedback. Don't be afraid. Most people are really nice about it. Last tip, you can be rejected for almost anything, like I said before. And what this means is that you don't need to be too hard on yourself. There's no sense in overthinking or rejection. Sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes there's something going on at the company. Because it can be anything, you don't need to worry about it. Just do your best. Work on your interviewing skills. Work on developing your own skills. Focus on the things that you can control. If you do these things, you'll be setting yourself up for success. For me, it was worth it to push through in the end to deal with rejection because I eventually landed my first job and am now getting paid a good amount of money. You can learn about that here or somewhere here in the video if you want to know how much I make. I think it's good context for people looking to get into tech to know how much money people do make, and that's something I want to be transparent about. Speaking of developing skills, if you're interested in learning more about design or just want general career tips from me, follow along on the channel. I'll be sharing everything I wish I knew when I first got started in my career and even before my career when I was just trying to break into tech and into product design. So follow along if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.